Thank you, Ann. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for attending. As always, we appreciate you taking the time to come and hopefully hear something helpful. This is a very interesting webinar for us because it's not really about a specific product, feature, or solution set we offer. It's more about what we can do kind of on the fringe areas with those extra communications problems you have that maybe you've never been able to get solved because nobody really quite builds what you need. And we're going to talk about how to get exactly what you need. If you look at our product and the way it's laid out and kind of how it's packaged, it gets deployed for a lot of point solutions. It certainly gets deployed in the pure UC voice, where it's a voicemail replacement for a legacy voicemail, call processing. Those pieces that are more the legacy call processing that are in your industry, we have those, and we do a lot of business in that area. And that's kind of the very basic core platform that goes in with that. And on top of that, we have a lot of packaged applications in the kind of more interesting UC area. Things like unified messaging, speech recognition, find me, follow me with a personal assistant, and context-aware call routing, kind of the really meat of UC and how we can solve problems for mobile workers, those type of things. And those are common enough that any medium or large enterprise faces those challenges, so we're able to build those solutions and make them available on the platform in terms of packaged applications that you can buy, and we can tell you exactly what they do, and typically we'll solve those problems. But the next step from that are those areas in your industry or in your particular enterprise where you have some communications problems that you just can't quite seem to find a tool to solve them. You know, unified communications by definition is taking various elements within your infrastructure, the data side, the voice side, collaboration, all of that, and being able to leverage them by tying some of that functionality together. And that's certainly what we do with our packaged apps. But beyond that, we have a set of toolkits that lets us do custom solution development. So what that means is you come to us and say, we have this particular problem where there's certain types of calls or messages. They need to be treated differently. They need to be processed based on information out in a SharePoint database, something that's not what anyone's going to build in a package app. And we're actually able to build those on top of our core CXE platform. The fact that they're on that basic platform makes them far less expensive than if you had to go out and buy point solutions for them. And all of those things we do in our core platform, all the messaging and call handling and the ability to reach out and touch everything in your enterprise from a data point of view, all of that is exposed within the toolkit. So they're very powerful toolkits that let us sit down and design point solutions that can probably solve any type of communications problem that you have. So if you look at why we're comfortable sitting there and doing that, has to do with how we were founded. Back in 1982, we were founded by 3 guys from a data department in a large company, and they were tasked with finding an IVR system, and they looked out in the industry and said, wow, IVR is really expensive because it runs on those mini computers, but those new PC mini servers are out now. I'll bet we could build a multi-communications kind of platform using those. So they quit their job, founded the company literally in somebody's garage. One of those early success stories, very, very successful. Everybody, that was here in those days is gone. A couple of them out sailing around the world on their yachts and things like that. But those people built a multi-application platform. Not a voicemail, not a fax server, but a core engine that they could leverage. And their belief from day one was many applications on that platform and a custom set of tools. Now, we've done a good job with that platform. We are recognized in the UC world for best of breed in a lot of categories. We have the broadest interoperability. We connect to everything in the market, and that's kind of how we're known. But beyond that, we have some extra things in that platform that you should know about. If you look at our customers and you go talk to them, we're happy to give out references. It kind of starts with the replacing the critical voice apps. The industry's changing. There's a lot of equipment going end of life, out of maintenance. And it's maybe not recognized as the most important application within an enterprise, but it's essential. It's core to business process. You have to have it. So that's one of the places where we excel. We can replace some of that legacy equipment and extend the environment and not require forklift upgrades on everything just because one piece of it is going out of maintenance. But at the same time, that same platform, once again, multi-application platform, is rich with the high-end applications, integrations to Link, hybrid and cloud-type messaging, full IP connectivity. It's really, really a powerful platform for solving those kind of problems as well. If you look at who uses our product, it's a pretty recognizable list of names. And the reason is the flexibility of that product lets us solve problems for everyone. I mean, every one of these customers was deployed slightly different, from customers that have 80 locations that were consolidated down into one call processing system to customers that have, multiple data centers across the world. Our product is extremely flexible. And those of you that have been to some of our other webinars know we'll gladly get up on the soapbox and talk about all the rest of that in another webinar. But today we're really not going to spend that much time on the core pieces. But what it is interesting to note is to do those core pieces. For us to sit out in your enterprise and deliver all those packaged apps, we have had to become masters of interoperability. And what that means is we know how to connect to everything in your enterprise. The obvious things, we connect to the phone system better than anyone else. We have more integrations to more phone systems. No one else even tries to compare themselves to what we do. We're the kind of the last player that really believes integrating to every phone system is important. At the same time, things like groupware, there's a lot of different types of groupware out there. We connect with all of it. There's a lot of types of mobile devices. We support all of them. We still have our relationship with OpenText for WriteFax, because fax is a part of a number of solutions now. And on the core side, we have the ability to connect to the enterprise data. Now, some of it we connect to with our packaged apps, but a lot of it we connect to with these custom solutions that we're going to start talking about. The industry has started to call that UC business process. We were just talking before the webinar started. That's not a great term. I don't think it resonates. I don't think people look at that and go, oh, I'm interested in that. They sort of look at it and go, well, what is that? And that's because it's a number of different things rolled together. If you start historically with the first kind of multi-application platforms, we talked about IVR, interactive voice response, and that was very popular. Information access from the telephone. Now, a lot of that moved to the web, so that the web piece is another big piece. And then a lot of it, when UC came around, became sort of packaged functionality. When we talk about UC business process, we're talking about creating custom solutions for you. Now, the engines we use to do this are engines we use currently to build some of our packaged solutions as well. So if you look at the kind of things we do with these toolkits, there are certain categories that people need enough of that functionality that we found it helpful to build. Either you might look at them as starter applications or simple applications in certain areas. We're going to look real quickly at a couple of these, but our ability to build solutions that either run on our platform and leverage what we do, or run on your platforms to take advantage of what CX does. If you look at the web portal bullet here, you can write things on your website that can use CXE to add functionality. Think of click-to-call. That's a very common one, but there's a lot more than that. You could have an employee portal, and when your employees went there on the website, they could see their voice messages and their various functionality for our product. You could have a web portal that let people look up directories. So you could have literally a kind of enter somebody's name at our company and then pick them from a list, and we'll make a phone call to connect them. So we have those kind of pieces. And then we have two packaged apps here, Outbound Notification and our Knowledge Workgroup. We're going to look at just briefly those. There are webinars for those if these sound interesting. But I want you to understand, when we look at these are built with the same toolkits we can use to build your custom solutions. So one of the first big successes for our packaged custom app was NotifyXpress. NotifyXpress is an outgoing call campaign automation application. So if you think of anywhere in your business where maybe in the afternoon somebody gets a list of numbers and they start calling people up to remind them that they have an appointment the next day, they have an overdue book, they're past due on their balance, all these kind of things that you do that are automated, even though the information changes for every call, that's what NotifyXpress does. So you build a campaign by generating a simple comma-delimited text file. You set up the campaign on our system. Maybe it starts at 2 in the afternoon, uses some of the existing ports on your system, or for more traffic-heavy applications, you might add additional ports. Depends on the number of calls and the time frame you're looking at. And basically what it does is it makes those outgoing calls using both recorded announcements and text-to-speech, and it prompts the caller. So if you think of a medical appointment reminder app. That's kind of one of the easiest ones to look at, where every afternoon at the clinic they're calling everybody to remind them of their appointment the next day. You would simply generate that text list, and the system would do that. It would come off hook, it would call, and it would say, hello, Anna Miller, this is a reminder you have an appointment with Dr. Thomas tomorrow at 2 o'clock. If you want to make the appointment, press 1, or if you need to reschedule, press 2. So that kind of functionality is all automated. You can have as many campaigns as you want for any kind of functionality. But keep in mind that was written with one of our toolkits. So if you look at that and say, well, that's not actually what we need, even if it's just close, you probably have a pretty good idea that we could build that kind of custom solution for you as well. The other one we built with our toolkit is just coming out now in our current release of software. It's called TeamQ. TeamQ is a really interesting application. It is not really an ACD application, although a lot of conversations start there. This is not for 400 people in a room with headsets selling magazine subscriptions. This is for small knowledge worker groups, where there's a group of 5, 10, 15 people, and they're handling the same general type of calls, but within that group, there's specialization. So what actually happens here when somebody calls into this solution, it runs a script, it asks who they are, it asks for an identification number, captures their caller ID, plays a menu to them, say, what are you looking for exactly, and then it puts all those calls on a screen on all the agents, and they can look down and see what's holding, and they can pick from that list the calls they have the skills to handle. So an informal work group type of application. Once again, built with one of our toolkits. Now you look at this and you say, well, that would be good, but what we really need is when that call comes in, we need to go out to our SharePoint database with our financial records to make sure that they're allowed to call for this. If not, we need to transfer them somewhere else. That's exactly what we would do. We would take this application, and using the toolkit, we would build you the custom version of it. So just kind of think about all the things that are in these applications. That's the type of toolkit that we have. So the traditional IVR is very easy to understand. Information access over the phone is typically how it's looked at. So if you have a small or even a large application where you could use that, those same ports and that same software in your CXE system that you would buy for all the traditional applications, we can add the application onto that platform and go in and do these. This actually happens to be a list of ones we've done in the last couple of years. It's not a comprehensive list. We aren't the only one who writes these apps. Our dealers write these apps, and some of our customers. If you have any kind of programming capabilities in-house, you might decide to run your own. So this is just kind of examples of the type of things we do. If you look at actually how it gets used, we have a couple of really good examples here of people who are using this. Up here in the Northwest, where we still have lots of land, one of the things we end up with are some very, very big counties. These counties, while not as high in population as some of the largest ones in the U.S., they are as high in land. They're very, very much distributed, which makes a lot of county functionality difficult. It's not easy in every place in that county to put an office where people can come in and get help. So the remote access piece is very important, particularly, as we all know, with government as well as pretty much all industry being pushed more and more to do more with less. Any kind of automation that you can use is a welcome relief to the budget. So this particular county put in one application, and basically some of the other divisions got jealous, and that platform grew and grew until it had multiple applications. There were so many things that they looked at and realized, wow, we could save time, money, lower costs, etc., by automating some of this functionality. We still need to support our users. We still need to communicate with them effectively. But honestly, most users would rather pick up a telephone and call in and get this information they're looking for than get in their car and drive 45 minutes to wherever the city is that might have that county office. So they started out with a polling application where, as the way voting is changing so much over the years now, with everyone always goes to a poll, till now there's a mix of poll and automated. People really in this large county didn't know where they should go, and the offices changed year by year. So they had a nice application that they wrote where you could call in, you could enter some information about your location, and it would tell you your choice of polling applications. If you actually had your registration number, it would actually tell you the exact location you could go to. After looking at that and watching the way that voting was going to change, where there was new processes, they immediately took NotifyXpress, which is part of that same kind of core set, and started doing outgoing calls to tell people that the voting process was changing. Now you have a choice. You can come in to poll. You can hit key 1, and we'll see that you get a package mailed to you. You can do remote polling, all of that type. And then as soon as they did that, they had another problem where people didn't quite understand how to do it, so they would get a lot of mail-in ballots that were not quite right for one reason or the other, and rather than have a list of people calling all these people back, they took that same NotifyXpress, just put another campaign on it. So this county now sits there in their meetings. Whenever they have challenges around communications at all, one of the first things they do is take a look and see if that application engine they have sitting there can be expanded even more. And we do extremely well in government, both large and local government, because of the flexibility of that platform. It's not just government. Of course, there's a lot of other areas. Everyone knows about the healthcare challenges we face, trying to keep those costs down. So healthcare, another place where custom solutions that can reduce human time and increase or decrease the latency of communications, very important. And we have a number of very large hospitals that are using this kind of application for a number of different applications. One of the most interesting ones, and this is one that the customer came up with. They actually called us and said, so we have this challenge and we're looking at your package and it seems you might be able to do something for it. And so what they wanted was a way to keep track of home healthcare professionals. So the home healthcare professionals, they get a list of calls that they have to do during the day, and then they're visiting customers and checking out conditions and things like that. And there was a couple of concerns knowing where they were, because people would call up and say, where's my healthcare professional? They're not here yet. And also just having a nice record of exactly what somebody did and how long they were at each place. So they came up with this app that we built for them to automate it. A healthcare worker goes into the location, picks the patient phone up, calls into this application, and they log in using their ID numbers. Now the call captured the ANI, so we now know where that person was. We match it to a record so we know they're in that particular patient's house. And then when they leave, they call in and check out again. And now there's not only a long-term report available, but they know where these agents are. This was actually expanded with one of our large dealers in the UK to keep critical tracking, because they had issues around security with when somebody went into a house knowing when they came out. So this core application that we wrote for the one hospital has actually been modified and deployed a couple of different times. Healthcare is full of challenges, and that's just a good market for us to be looking at. Education, of course, is the same thing. Educational, I probably could put any industry in the world on here and do this, but education is one that we are one of the largest providers of unified communications in education, largely due to the fact that education early on deployed legacy voicemail and call processing systems, and as those need to be replaced, that's one of our richest markets. So when we're talking to that customer, we can extend that value as well. So one of the biggest things that's used in universities is the NotifyXpress. Some of this is canned. In other words, they take that canned application of NotifyXpress, generate those files, and they do things like this is talking about rescheduling some type of appointments. There's also at least one college that I worked with that had us modify this to go out and extract the data from a database, and this they were doing at the end of a semester, about 3 weeks before the semester end. They were polling student records and finding things in the records that would prevent that particular semester for closing for that student. Overdue parking fines, overdue library books, classes that were incomplete for various reasons. And then they would generate the text for that, and they would call that student up to remind them. And that took some reminder or some modification on our part. They actually added the ability not just to make phone calls, but also to send email messages out. And that application actually, they are very, very happy with it, and they're looking at a couple of more applications. Just as a side note, when we're in colleges, we will always talk about automated speech or automated attendant. People did surveys about 10 years ago, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 40% of traffic that comes into any receptionist, business, college, healthcare, that 40% are internal users saying, yeah, could you transfer me to Bob Smith? There are people who don't have the directory with them or mostly too lazy to use the directory. So what the colleges found out very early on is at a minimum they could deploy the speech automated attendant on that CXE platform they already had, and all that internal traffic could be sent there. And then they discovered they could also use it after hours, even though some of them wanted a human answer point during the day. They're not going to maintain those 24/7, so they were very comfortable moving that traffic after hours to a speech automated attendant. And then, frankly, a lot of colleges in the last 2 years have just taken their front end and put it on a speech rec automated attendant. So many of the people that call into colleges in particular are on the young side, and they are perfectly comfortable with a speech automated type application. So we have dozens of colleges that have done speech automated attendant, and while that's not a custom solution, it is part of that whole, once you have our platform, leverage it as best you can kind of message that we like to get out there. So there's probably hundreds of other examples, which I'm not going to go through, so don't panic. But if you think about the core CX platform, answers calls, plays audio to callers, transfers calls, gathers DTMF input from callers, all of those are pieces within our toolkit that we can leverage, whether we're building an information access type application or building something, let's say, on a customer web portal. It's really easy for us we have two toolkits. One writes applications on the platform. The other is a web services toolkit that lets you go to your platforms, let's say your Linux web server or your Mac clients out in the graphic arts department or anything you want, and write applications that can leverage the CXE structure. So applications that make calls, access our database, send messages, all of that can easily be deployed using the toolkit. And there's just hundreds and hundreds of little applications that get built. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% of our large enterprise sales, when they go in, have at least some little bit of custom programming that fixes a little problem they had that they really didn't think they were going to get fixed by buying a solution. The click-to-call is extremely popular, and because it's so easy to do. So we have click-to-call applications within CX. So if you deploy our unified messaging solution from within the Outlook client or the Link client, you can right-click an entity and it'll pop up a screen. You can say call them, and our system controls the PBX and makes those calls. But doing that same kind of functionality into any program, not just our programs, but this is showing. We use Salesforce.com. And one of the very first things our salespeople asked for after seeing a presentation like this was, couldn't you just build click-to-call into our Salesforce screen? Because I'm going to open that record up, and the next thing I'm going to want to do is call that person. And while I can pick up my phone and manually dial it, click-to-call would be great. So we did that. And putting that into any kind of application that's extensible, very easy to do. And once again, leveraging that CXE platform. There's an application that comes with the toolkit that I like to talk about because it's actually a very powerful tool for a lot of people. One of the things about call routing when calls come in, one of the things we hear quite a bit is, I would like to route those calls differently. I don't really want to send the caller to a menu, and we certainly can do that easily enough, but I have maybe a list of gold customers. And when I get a call from one of those, I would automatically maybe want to send them to the priority ACD queue or send them directly to the agent that handles them. So once you put the toolkit on our platform, it comes with this free application that will read the caller ID and route the call based on that. Or you can prompt the caller to enter numeric input, their account number, their zip code, whatever you want, and route the call based on that. So that's just something we kind of throw in for free just when you buy the toolkit to put on the platform. If you look at what the industry says out there, the business process area is one that is of great concern to most of the management levels. And the reason is they've identified some of these problems, but they just can't solve them. They're just, they're so unique to every single different industry, and sometimes different groups within an industry, that they're almost to the point of giving up in terms of, there's no way we can make this any better than it is. But that's really not true. If you look at what you can do with our platform, any kind of communications problem you have, it's worth talking to us about. We're very good about understanding the wiring within your enterprise in terms of the various databases you have in your network and where information lives and how to get to that information, and then the actual functionality of processing calls, making outgoing calls, answering incoming calls. All of those capabilities come with the toolkit. Now we go to my favorite slide, the question slide.
Great. Thanks, Neil. Okay, so if you have a question and you haven't submitted it yet, just want to alert you to, you probably have it minimized, but if you click the orange arrow in the upper right corner, you'll find the question pane on the webinar console toward the bottom there. And we do have a couple in the queue. So Neil, first question, does a person have to be sitting at their desk to use click-to-call?
Well, click-to-call is typically an application that has an associated phone number that you click on and call. So they don't have to be necessarily sitting at their desk. It's going to depend on what you're trying to do. Let me give a couple of examples. If I build a click-to-call into Salesforce.com, when I click on that record and say call me, there's a configuration parameter in that application that says call you where. And typically it's going to be linked to the CX database where you have a set of rules saying right now where do I want my calls to go. We have a context routing engine that says when somebody's trying to get in touch with me, if I'm at my desk and the system knows that, send it to my desk. But if I'm working from home, send it to my home number. If I'm not at my desk or at work, send it to my mobile phone. All that functionality would be included in the click-to-call type of piece.
Okay, great. Next question. Do we support SMS texting notification with NotifyXpress?
It is not a default part of the product, but the toolkit has an SMS engine interface, meaning we can create a link. Either you put an SMS modem card in or you get a service, and then we can expand that to do true SMS. What most people have done in the U.S. anyway, instead of using true SMS, they've used SMTP to mobile phone. In other words, if you use my telephone number at tmobile.com, that will actually appear as a text, and the carrier would be the one who would make that happen. And it goes into the carrier, they send it back out as SMS. But both of those would be a custom deployment of NotifyXpress.
Okay, thanks. There is a question about getting the slides. Yes, we will make those available. I will send out an email to all the attendees just a little bit once we conclude here with a link to those slides so that you can view those. And in addition, we are recording, so once the recording is available, we'll send that to you as well. And it actually looks like that wraps up the questions. If any of you listening in or when you view the slides or the recording, if you think of another question, you can always reach out to us. You can email us at info@avst.com. If you're not sure how to contact a sales rep, you can send your question there and we'll make sure that it gets to the best person to provide the answer.
I just add my thanks as well. We know it's hard for you to take time out of your day to do this, and we always appreciate when people show up. And that info@avst.com is also a great place to give us feedback. Are these helpful? Did we not go deep enough? Are there other subjects you'd like to see us cover? We do respond to that email address quickly. It's a very important communications channel for us.
Okay, thanks everyone again, and have a great day.